Yeah, but see, this is another thing we're not talking about. In her own district, a guy that owns a bodega was defending his bodega and ended up stabbing somebody to death that was getting robbed. And he had a $500,000 bond, then they lowered it to $250,000. So people in New York, you can rub feces on somebody and get out of jail within 24 hours. But if you defend your bodega, you're going to get charged with manslaughter, and you're not even going to be able to get out of jail. So the hypocrisy in her own district, it's literally rotting, like the Big Apple. It's the rotting apple right now. And she's all worried about me saying big booty Latina. So her priorities are absolutely screwed up.
The documentary is called Knock Down the House.
Knock Down the House.
It's from 2019. I think the points about her not feeling safe are interesting because one, I'm hoping that like when she was talking about 1-6, she was like clapping her hands, and she looked like terrified, like just completely nervous wreck. I imagine someone in Capitol would feel like that these days with this heightened sense of security with the economy, inflation and things like that. And I want to help. But also it's not cool to tell people to go make politicians uncomfortable. I mean, maybe that's a very vague thing to tell people.
I don't know. I think AOC might be right, but she's just a hypocrite.
And I want to say this. The only reason I disagree with you is because this is part of the left's narrative. They have to be a victim. Victimhood is their favorite thing. Because if you play the victim, then they're not responsible for your actions. And it's like, oh, well, if you're poor, you can steal. So it's kind of their victimhood mentality. And AOC, she plays the victim better than anybody in Congress. Yet she's super successful. She's really young. She's been afforded every opportunity possible in life. But she can, if you give her an inch, she's going to take a mile of victimhood.
But this is why she's so popular among the millennial left. She exemplifies them, given every opportunity, privileged, and then complaining about it. Living one of the most comfortable lives in the world and complaining about it.
Well, she talks a lot about how she came from humble beginnings and she used to be a waitress and blah, blah, blah.
Bartender.
Yeah, but
ask why there are people who are traveling thousands of miles, crawling through desert to come here to work in a industrial setting or in a chicken factory. And she was a waitress living in, New York or whatever.
In Manhattan, in Union Square, one of the nicest neighborhoods in New York.
But she, at that famous Union Square restaurant, right?
Yeah, and so she probably did really well because bartenders actually do pretty good. But it's funny because you make a point, and we talk about the border. Over 108,000 drug overdose deaths this year. The issue that we're having with fentanyl, people are literally dying, young kids. The opioid epidemic is one of the worst problems that we're facing. And politicians, and this is the problem that I have with the conservative side, forget about the $80 billion we're giving to Ukraine. Forget about Dan Crenshaw voting for service members that aren't vaccinated to get kicked out of the military. It doesn't matter if you have an R or a D next to your name. I want them to have an A next to their name for America. And that's the problem, is that we have all of these politicians that are run by multinational corporations. Businesses are deciding really what's happening in the world. So it doesn't matter if you're right or left because they do not care about the border between Texas and Mexico, yet they're giving $80 billion to defend the border between Russia and Ukraine. And for me, that mostly makes me sick because, listen, I love the gay community, I love the trans community, but if you're in the Ukraine, you cannot, gay marriage is illegal. If you're transgender in the Ukraine and you try to go to Poland, they give you a gun and they say, get back on the front line. So the country that we're defending the most, with a huge majority of our money, does not even have the same culture that we have here in America.
And during Pride Month, no less, they were giving all this money.
I went to the New York City Pride, and I saw more Ukrainian flags than I saw rainbow. Well, I saw more rainbow flags, but I'm just saying I saw a lot of Ukrainian flags.
In all seriousness, though, there could have been that quid pro quo. There could have been Joe Biden saying, you guys got to ease up on the LGBTQ stuff. We're going to fund you, but let's...
Tim, this is what makes me so mad. I don't care. All day long, Hunter Biden can smoke crack all day long. No, serious. I'm dead serious. As a matter of fact, I think that makes him endearing because everybody knows somebody that's a drug addict. We don't talk about, his business dealings in China. We don't talk about the quid pro quo Joe talking about giving $1 billion, making sure they had the right people in power in the Ukraine. And now we're fighting a proxy war, fighting a war by proxy, killing young people over what? Over decisions made by a crackhead president, by the president's crackhead son. That gets no media attention. But they're going to give you the prostitutes all day long. They're going to give you the crack pipe all day long. Like you said,
we talk about the quid pro quo stuff. Like I don't shut up about it.
No, but what I'm saying is your frustration about, hey, I'm so mad that he's the big booty Latina is the head story, because the real story is that January 6th the Capitol Police let people in, and that's obvious because people couldn't get in. They didn't have a key to get into the door. But it's the same thing.
The crazy thing is there's that video going viral right now where the window is smashed out. They still can't get in because it's mag locked. And then these guys look up at someone and point, and then someone releases the maglock. And that could have been an insurrectionist, whatever you want to call him. Maybe someone broke in, found the maglock release, and they said, press it. Or maybe it was a cop, because we did see other cops open the door directly. We saw other cops taking selfies. So I'm with AOC on that one. I want the investigation too.
Now, 1,000% we want the investigation.
Obviously, she thinks the outcome will be different from what the right thinks it will be, but I don't think that's relevant. I think the question is what happened.
And we look at January 6th, you know, obviously there's some people. One of my very good friends, Luke Coffey, you know, he has a GoFundMe. He's actually being charged with assaulting a police officer. He's actually kind of well known. He's the crutch guy. And he held a crutch. He found a crutch on the ground and he kind of, you know, put it against the riot shields. And now he's being charged with assaulting a cop. And let me tell you something. The guy's a 37-year-old, young, nice kid that, you know, felt, you know, that there was an injustice, even though it was the most.
37-year-old young kid?
I'm just saying he's a young.
Middle-aged man.
Well, middle-aged man. But I'm just
37.
saying he's not built for, excuse me, he's not built for federal prison is my point being. I think he would be young for prison. But it was the most fair election, the best election ever. Joe Biden got 81 million votes. I just want to put that on record. My point being, there is people there that loved our country very much. And now they're being labeled as a domestic terrorist. They're saying it's worse than 9/11. And for me, I look back at our government's track record. The same people that said we had weapons of mass destruction, which we didn't, are the same people that saying American citizens that love our country the most are terrorists. So the government's going to lie to you to create a narrative that's not true.
I'll tell you what I think. I think the people that rioted, I think the people that were fighting with cops, even pushing on the cops, that's bad. And there's got to be some accountability there.
That's fair.
But I think that when Trump gets in office in 2024, well, in 2025, blanket pardon across the board.
Oh, he should. But you think Trump will beat DeSantis?
I don't know. But I'm saying, like, I'm not saying that will happen. I'm just saying if Trump or DeSantis gets in, I think without condemning, well, actually, no, with a little condemnation, but with recognizing the threat this country faces through the massive divide, I think you've got to get these people out.
Yeah.
You've talked about it before.
Shays Rebellion.
Shays Rebellion.
Yeah, John Hancock pardoned a bunch of the farmers that had rebelled because they were being overtaxed. They didn't have the money. They were just back from the revolution, soldiers with their fortunes depleted. And then they were getting imprisoned because they didn't have the money still that they didn't have. And they just surrounded the courthouse, refused to let the judges act. And there was jail sentences and stuff. And then Hancock came in and was like, no. We're forming a union. You're pardoned. Everyone's pardoned.
Well, let's talk about Trump, because everybody loves Trump, and I love the Trump that calls little Marco Rubio, or I love the Trump.
What's he going to say about DeSantis?
Oh, and I think Hancock didn't pardon. He pardoned everyone except for like 3 people or 2 people.
But my point being is, listen, Trump I think had 11 days in office where he could have pardoned some people. You look at Trump with Julian Assange, who the WikiLeaks basically gave him the 2016 election, yet he doesn't get a pardon. Kodak Black gets one. I'm not saying that Kodak Black, good rapper. Not saying he shouldn't get one, but I think Trump has a serious, priority issue.
I got to point this out. Never in my life growing up, as like in the 2000s into Occupy Wall Street and after, for several years after, did I think that at one point in my life I would be sitting across the table from a conservative, I would say yes.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of down the middle, but yeah.
Suit-wearing guy arguing that the Republican president should have pardoned Julian Assange because 10 years ago, the left loved Assange. Mm-hmm. And now they leave him hanging out to dry. They leave him to rot.
Tim, you made your bones. Okay, well, you say what you're going to say real quick.
I was going to say Trump is the reason they're trying to extradite Julian Assange, too. I think Trump wanted Julian Assange because Julian knows things about the DNC, and Trump wanted that. And so now he's being handed off to Joe Biden, which is extremely dangerous. But anyway.
Well, let's talk about Occupy, because I know that was, a huge thing for you. Those people were very anti-establishment then. Those people were anti-banks. Now these people love Pfizer. They love banks. They love Halliburton. So it just shows you that these people are under what I call mass formation hypnosis. They don't even know whose side to be on.
I agree.
And this wasn't that long ago. Like you said, in 2008, when we had the financial crash, people were out there protesting for what I agree is I'm anti-establishment. I'm not right or left. I just don't like the establishment. I think that the system is just terrible. And the people in power, once they get in power, I talk about the multinational corporations, all they care about is their political action committee. They care about the money that they're getting donated. It's like you look at Apple, Apple freaking in China at their Foxconn factories. Instead of paying their employees more, they have suicide nets because so many employees are jumping off the
Bingo.
roof. But instead of paying them a little more, they make stronger nets. They make bigger nets. So we have a priority issue because it's the globalization of America. And that's why I'm an American first guy, because I care about America. I want to actually put America in the forefront. But if you say you're a nationalist or if you have an American flag in your yard, that's a hate symbol.
You're
And-
right wing now.
Yeah, exactly.
You're conservative.
And I'm considered alt-right because I love America. And that's not how it should be. But they create a narrative that America is bad. Yet nearly 100,000 people, even more than that, illegally cross into our country every month. So go figure, if it's such a racist place, why does everyone want to immigrate here?
Man, you hit the nail on the head right there. I completely agree. I never really cared all that much for the left, the right, or that ideas. It was always just like the machine is broken. It is unjust. It is corrupt. It is manipulative. And so that is, for me, especially it starts with the media, because the media is lying to people and they just go along with it. So that's really what got me here. Early on in my career, I wasn't talking that much about Democrats or Republicans. It was the media and their lies. Well, as time goes on, you start to realize they're lying to benefit the uniparty, which morphed into the Democrats when Trump took over. And then you get a narrative. The Democratic Party is the party of the establishment, wealthy elites. The media props them up. The Lincoln Project and the neocons joined the Democrats after Trump took over. Half the Republican Party is extremely bad. The other third is really bad. There's a small handful of them that are okay. For me, I'm like, Thomas Massey's cool. Rand Paul, I like. Marjorie Taylor Greene is great. And the rest of them, there's a few others that are doing a decently good job. But the machine itself is dominated by the uniparty, and it's just corrupt. I don't care about how much taxes you want to take. That's ancillary. It's after the fact. We can have a conversation about that. For the time being, it's corrupt people lying, cheating, and stealing and destroying the country.
I wonder if it's the media is manipulating the politicians. I'm sure it's happening on some level, or if they're all colluding, or if the politicians are making the media act that way. But I think like Alexandria Cortez, she didn't ever mention. I've never heard her mention the 1-6 cops letting people in on 1-6. Like I've never heard her mention that till a couple days ago. And it's been 2 years of people in solitary. Did she not hear about it? Are they that insulated? Like that? It's hard to think that people could be so insulated that they don't see what I see, but I've spent a lot of my time looking at a lot of things from the outside. I think when you're in that DC environment, they may actually be very intentionally insulated.
No, Ian, I deserve all the credit. I broke her. I broke her. I created an emotional
She
response.
thinks that getting called a big booty Latina is the same gravity as 1-6.
100%. She thinks the cops, were basically, since they didn't arrest me, which they did. She complained 5 times. She said that in her own tweet. And the cops did come and they ID'd me. I gave them my ID. I said, am I under arrest? Am I being detained? They said no. And I was able to walk away. And her watching me walk away, I know, made her so mad that she's like, I hate these Capitol Police. Oh my God, they let the rioters in. So that's what happened.
Made her throw a tantrum.
But what was interesting is that she must have known about it for a while.
Oh, come on, Ian. Everybody knows about this. And listen, she's the same person that said she was afraid of her life, yet she was a mile away. And at the same time, even if every single rioter went in, did they really think that they were going to be able to, even do any sort of legislation? Come on.
So this is a narrative that for some reason has even been difficult to permeate the right. When AOC said she was scared when they came and knocked on her door, she wasn't just not in the Capitol. She fabricated the story outright.
Ooh, a politician lied. What?
This is a tough one.
I
for me
thought
to
she
wrap my
claimed
head
to
around.
be in one of the bathrooms, hiding in a bathroom
In her
stall.
office. Let me break this down for you because I will tell the story every chance I get. AOC did an Instagram video, it's about 45 minutes long, where she said she's in her office and she hears a knock, knock, knock. And she got scared thinking it's them. They've gotten here. What do I do? And they said, go hide in the bathroom. And I did. And the door opens and it's a police officer going, or it's a man going, where is she? Where is she? And she's like, she said she thought she was going to die. Turns out it's a police officer evacuating her. What she doesn't tell you, although she kind of does.
Is that she was in there pooping?
No, is
She doesn't say
that
that.
happened, I believe, 1 full hour before the barricades were breached at the front of the building, meaning no one knew anyone was going to get into the Capitol.
Except Ray Epps. He knew.
Right. Well, AOC claimed she thought they had made it to her office. How does that make sense? Nobody was in the building. Nobody knew they were going to get in the building. And if AOC knew they were going to breach the building, why didn't she report it? Weird questions there, right? The media tried defending her, saying, yes, she wasn't in the Capitol. She was in her office. But there are tunnels that connect the Capitol to her office. That explains it. I had a guy from the Huffington Post tell me that I was wrong when I tweeted her story didn't make sense. And he DMs me, and then I pull up the timeline, and he responds in private DM going like, oh, you're right. When she claimed that she thought they got to her office and she was going to die, no one had even attempted to breach the Capitol building. She made the story up. It was like a full hour before the barricades even moved, something like that. And then they made their way to the front of the Capitol, but AOC had no idea what was going to happen. She fabricated the story after the fact, and people bought it, believed it, and they still do to this day.
I've been thinking lately, no matter how emotional I am about something, no matter how strongly I feel about something, it doesn't make it more or less right. Like, so crying, saying it's real doesn't make it more or less
manipulation.
Real.
Yeah, you have to be emotional. And I don't want to get too conspiratorial, but it kind of sounds like, you remember how Larry Silverstein during 9/11, he usually has breakfast there, and he happened to be having a little doctor's appointment for a scan. I'm just saying, it's not a surprise that these people probably do have prior knowledge to stuff that's going to happen. And we talk about Ray Epps because I know you want to expose that, but literally he's on camera saying, we need to have an insurrection. We need to go inside. Yet, you look at the mainstream media, New York Times, Adam Kinzinger, if they're running cover for him,
They are running cover for him.
then you know what the truth is. You know that he's involved and they're protecting him. But let me say this real quick, because we know about the Mockingbird media. We know the government admits that they have literally intelligence in every radio, television, film, every form of media that we have. So it would be impossible for him to be this protected by the media if he wasn't in on it.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Come hang out live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Super Chat will even answer some of your questions. If you want to check out the After Hours Censored Show, go to timcast.com and become a member. We put those up Monday through Thursday at 11 p.m. They're very funny, not very family friendly. We'll love to see you there. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.